Mo Kelly on KFI AM 640.
Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. I love talking about sports, but not the data, not the stats per se, not the inside baseball, pun intended, where people want to talk about, well, with this draft pick and this signing, the Dodgers could go all the way. No. That's not what I do. I can do it, but that's not what I want to do tonight. You may hear the name Juan Soto more and more this week. Juan Soto was a member of the New York Yankees. In fact, he played against the Dodgers in the World Series. He's one of the best young ball players in baseball. I qualify it as young because Shohei Ohtani's on the other side of 30. Soto is only 26. He is not yet in his prime. But today, he signed the largest contract in sports history. Not just baseball history, but sports history. A 15-year contract worth $765 million, $765 million. And that's more than Shohei Ohtani's deal. Shohei Ohtani's deal is 15 years for $700 million, and most of it is deferred. In other words, we'll pay you $2 million a year now, and it's like a balloon payment on a house. All of a sudden, it'll balloon up to like $60 and $70 million a year. That's what the Dodgers did, and there are a lot of people who are angry about that. How is it the Dodgers can sign all these players? They just signed Blake Snell, one of the top pitchers in the league. And the truly sports angle is, how is it the Dodgers can do this? It's just so unfair. And this kind of goes back to my discussion last week. But this is about sports business. And you are what you can negotiate. Your value is what you can negotiate. And people say, no player is worth $765 million. Not true. Juan Soto is. But he hasn't done anything. They'd have to win like 5 or 6 World Series. No, that's not true. He asked for $765 million. He got $765 million. That means, according to the Mets, he is worth $765 million. And there are a lot of baseball fans out there. It's like, well, how are the San Diego Padres supposed to compete with that? How are the San Francisco Giants supposed to compete with that? They can't offer that much money for a player. That's not true. They can. It's just a question of whether the ownership of either of those teams are that dedicated to winning or risking that level of investment. If you're going to pay one player $765 over 15 years. Yes, there is no salary cap in baseball, but there is a luxury tax. It could be one of the biggest disasters in your franchise's history. Juan Soto, or any player for that matter, can come down with a debilitating injury and never be the same. It's not something that you can guarantee. You can't say that you're going to get the very best out of Juan Soto for the next 15 years. Let's be clear. This is simple math. He's 26 now. The deal won't be done until 41. He's 41 years old. Yes, they could presumably try to trade him, but who exactly would want to take on this contract? There was only one offer even comparable to that, not the Dodgers, but it was the New York Yankees, who offered 16 years and $760 million. So it was comparable, not quite the same. In other words, there aren't many other takers for Juan Soto. And if the New York Mets are not getting the return on that investment, it's going to be hard as hell, if not impossible, to unload such a contract to anybody. But if you look at this big picture, this, and I got to look at Mark Ronner when I say this is capitalism. And if you don't like how the ticket prices are going to increase, if you don't like the increase in carriage fees for like the Yes Network, for the different New York teams, or whatever the New York Mets TV network is, if you don't like that, blame capitalism. Because this is something that you, as a baseball fan, are going to have to pay for. Now, you may not mind paying for Shohei Ohtani's contract in the way that you may notice that your cable bill's a little bit higher now. because the Dodgers on Spectrum cost a little bit more. You may not like how these players are making ungodly sums of money. But again, it's what I said before. You are what you can negotiate. Your worth is what your employer or the market says you're worth. Now, I can have some fun with Stefan and say, Stefan is probably tired of making $650,000 per year. He's probably sick of it. And he probably is wondering whether he could get, let's say, $1 million a year at some other radio station. Well, either he can or he can't. But his value is what he can negotiate. Period. End of story. It's not about whether you think that Stefan's worth $650,000 a year. It's not whether you think I'm worth $55,000 a year. It's only what we can negotiate. And the lesson here is, don't get mad at Juan Soto. Don't get mad at baseball for running their business in a way which allows players like a Shohei Ohtani. And if you're a Dodger fan, you think, woo, that's wonderful. If you're not, you think, ooh, that's terrible. Don't get mad at Shohei Ohtani or a Juan Soto for getting this, my word, outlandish contract. Scott Boras, the agent for Juan Soto. He negotiated the deal. He made it happen. He gets a percentage of it. No one made the New York Yankees or the New York Mets offer more than $750 million to one player. Nobody. But he's viewed as that valuable in this particular market. And that, I think, is, I would say, it's a good lesson to be applied to life in general. You may look at someone else and say, how does so-and-so make so much money? Well, he's worth what he can negotiate. How did she get that job? Well, she's worth what she can negotiate. And that's the takeaway. That's the takeaway. And I don't know what Juan Soto is going to mean for the New York Mets. I personally think that in maybe 5 or 6 years, if they don't win a World Series, and I say this even though the deal is comparable to Shohei Ohtani, I think it's going to be virtually impossible for them to unload Juan Soto if it goes badly. And what that means is you may be able to trade him, but the Mets will have to end up paying him a good portion of the contract. And if you really know your baseball history, I want you to Google the name Bobby Bonilla. Bobby Bonilla retired like 12, 13 years ago, used to play for the New York Mets, but they're still paying Bobby Bonilla. In fact, they have Bobby Bonilla Day. I need to just look that up real quick, where they're still playing a player who retired many years ago because of deferred money and no one wanted to take care of his contract. It's July 1st. The New York Mets pay Bobby Bonilla a deferred fee. The Mets bought out Bonilla's contract in 1999 when he was 39 years old and owed him $5.9 million. Instead of paying him immediately, they deferred the payments of 24 years with an 8% interest rate. The result is that Bobby Bonilla, even though he retired back in like 1999, he will be paid $1.2 million from 2011 to 2035. That is what you will likely see with these balloon contracts, including Ohtani and also Juan Soto. But don't blame the players. You know, as they say, don't hate the players, hate the game. They got their worth. So Mark Runner may make $2 an hour, but that's not our fault.
There's enough hate to go around. Believe me, plenty of hate.
Woo! When we come back, I just want to make Mark mad all night. Why? Because there is now an AI video generator which has launched. Only 2 questions. 1, what does that mean for the industry? And 2, how soon can I get AI porn? That's all I want to know.
Oh, I'm sure that's already here. Are you kidding me? I mean, theoretically, I believe it could possibly be. Not that anybody's ever seen any.
We'll talk about it next. KFI AM 640 live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And if I could make a generalization, it's that new technology ends jobs. Blanket statement, but it's still true. New technology may make things easier, faster, more efficient, But in just about every single instance, it means jobs disappear. We can say from the VHS and the beta machines, if you're old enough to remember them, put a lot of movie theaters out of business. You can talk about smartphones and how they've put long distance operators out of business. They've put telephone landline providers out of business. And now we see with AI, it's going to do much the same thing. New technology, it's going to streamline a lot of things, and we may not like what it may lead to, but it is going to lead to loss of jobs, the ending of certain jobs. OpenAI's Sora video generator is now available. And if you use their popular Chat GPT program, you'll find it there. And Sora, S-O-R-A, can currently take text prompts and produce short videos. In other words, you type in a few parameters, it will spit out a video. Of course, that's probably going to end jobs when you can have instant video content. You think about, well, if you're old enough to remember the creation of the 4-track recorder, if you're in the audio, it made a lot of music studios obsolete. And people started creating music on their own, at home, professional grade. Studios closed. I would say this is almost a video equivalent, with the exception that AI is actually creating content, albeit derivative, albeit it's sourcing everything else which has already been created, but it's still creating content. And people's jobs will go away. Because now you've made it possible for people to create their own trailers with no help from a studio or any type of real video expertise. They can create movies wholesale now without the need of a studio, without the need of any great technology. And people are going to start creating these videos and selling them, posting them to get likes, shares, hearts, all sorts of revenue. And pretty soon, you've probably seen from just AI stills, it's going to be real difficult to determine what is real, what is an AI creation, or some combination of both. The whole idea of a movie director may forever change rather quickly. People will be not only creating movies on their iPhone, but they will be doing it for virtually next to nothing. How do movie studios continue to compete against that? And I firmly agree with Mark Ronner. The quality cannot be the same because it doesn't have the human spirit of creation and innovation.
It has the human spirit of theft.
Theft, yes.
By the way, Steven Soderbergh made a pretty decent movie on his iPhone, but you and I aren't Steven Soderbergh. There was still talent that went into that.
Right. But in the way that the computer has allowed us to do things that usually took a number of people to do in various art forms and various genres. I remember just with the music technology, how those advances, like, for example, you get a keyboard, depending on your age, you may remember the first Moog synthesizer and how keyboards had, these strings patches and horns and drum machines. And all of a sudden people were creating songs and didn't need an actual band. They didn't need musical instruments or instrumentation.
Yeah, there's a certain democratizing nature to all this. At the same time, there's a terrible theft nature to it. That's the other side of the coin. More people have access to putting out creative works, but this is a system that relies on stealing from artists to put those same artists out of work. I think it's all going to shake out with the help of some pretty severe regulation, which is sorely and quickly needed, but it could go bad fast for a lot of people.
I'm counting the days, maybe the hours, before you have either a major or a mid-major movie studio embrace this and start churning out content. We know about the SAG after the DGA and the fights and the strikes of previous recent years. That was about using AI instead of actors for specific movies which were created by actual humans. I don't think there's any stipulation preventing a studio from using a completely AI piece of work and selling it.
There may not be, and I just think the public is going to reject that because even the worst things by the worst director, like Ed Wood Jr., the Plan 9 from Outer Space guy, okay? There is still something distinctive and human and passionate about the absolute trash that he turned out that people love today.
All right, think of this way, just from a business standpoint. If you could produce a wholly AI movie for $1,000, but you can turn that into $1 million because of people willing to watch it, pay to see it. Let's say you put it on some sort of digital download service for $1.99. And some of it is passable, good enough where people have some sort of interest in it. You don't think they wouldn't go further down that road? It's no investment, all profit.
Well, any corporation's reason for existing is to make more money, and morality has nothing to do with it, okay? We know that about all corporations, not just movie studios. But I think people are going to reject it. You say passable. I think that's a generous way to put what AI can turn out in the creative realm. In other realms in science, we just learned something today, like an AI, specific AI was able to make medical calculations at like 10 quadrillion times the speed of a normal computer. That's a legit use of that. Yes. I can't wait to find out what that yields. But arts, books, films, what have you, that's going to be inferior just by definition.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to use your own. I'm going to use his own argument and genre against him. In the way that horror movies are made, you have a movie like Pooh, Blood and Honey, which was made for $100,000.
We should specify the Pooh is Winnie.
Yes, and they turned it into I don't know, 30 million or something. I can't remember.
It generated a profit for sure.
Right. What did that lead to? Another movie.
Yeah, but you're talking about stuff that these are public domain issues. This isn't an AI issue. They're hacks, but they're people who are behind these movies.
But I'm saying, when it comes down to it, the companies only care about the money.
Wait, but Mark.
Yes.
You say that AI has figured out medical computations and calculations within a fraction of a millisecond of what the doctor could. That's going to put doctors out of business. That's going to put a lot of really, really trained doctors out of business if you can just easily sidestep all that knowledge and just apply AI training to someone manually doing something. And there are a lot of advancements in robots performing medical procedures. Doctors out of jobs.
I know that for a fact.
Well, yes. I should specify. This wasn't a medical procedure. It was a calculation for some DNA related thing. I don't think anybody's going to replace a human treating other humans in a doctor's office.
No, it's already happened on a surgical level. I know for a fact that's the case.
For a fact it's happening.
Oh, yeah, and I've seen it. And there are ways that humans will be able to use it, but it's not going to push the humans out of the room.
They can use it for now, and eventually there will not be humans to do it. I.e. what they do in Star Trek and Star Wars and all that, the science of Star Trek and the medical procedures that they're using, they may have Spock in there or McCoy or whoever, but he's not actually touching anyone.
You just want a robot hand.
He's got a handheld thing in his hand saying,
tricorder.
You just want a fancy cyborg hand. Just admit it.
Hey, Mark, look, we got a story at the end of the show where we're going to get into butt massages by an AI robot. That is putting...
Stay out of the newsroom.
They're putting masseuses or, people give happy endings out of work.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming in here.
I'm sorry, no one's what?
Those who what there?
Stay out of the newsroom.
Mark, keep your pants on.
Okay. Yellow police tape around my butt tonight, okay?
Whoa.
Let's talk about Diddy. No, we can't talk about Diddy when we come back. We can't do that now.
We have to.
No, you have to. You have to.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Let's just review very quickly. We told you that there would be more Diddy accusations and allegations. Check mark. We told you that this Me Too music industry moment was going to implicate other big name music personalities. We told you that. Check mark. Here we are. Jay-Z named with Diddy in a civil sexual assault lawsuit. Sean Carter, that's his government name, was accused Sunday in a civil lawsuit of raping a 13-year-old girl back in 2000, along with Sean Diddy Combs, and there is an unnamed celebrity who allegedly witnessed the assault. The lawsuit was first filed back in October and originally only listed Combs as a defendant. It has been since refiled to name Jay-Z as well. It has an anonymous Jane Doe who claimed that Combs and Carter both raped her in 2000 after they brought her to an MTV Music Video Awards after party. Jay-Z since has released a public statement impugning the credibility of the opposing counsel of the lawyer who's brought this lawsuit, Tony Busby. We've talked about him. And Jay-Z claims that this is just an effort to publicly shame him into settling. He says he's not going to settle at this point, and he's also filed a motion to have the name of his accuser unmasked. I don't know if we talked about this on the show, Tuala, but I know we talked about it off the show. We both noted how quiet Jay-Z was about the previous Diddy allegations. In other words, regardless of what was being said about Diddy, Jay-Z had nothing to say. Absolutely nothing. No public comment, no comment in support of him, nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it almost became a running joke. It's like, where's Jay-Z? Where's Beyonce? They considered like one and the same because they're married. Neither of them had anything to say about anything. I thought, and I know you thought, well, put it this way. When you live in a glass house, and that glass house is next to the glass house, which is presently being investigated by some 40 some odd lawsuits or whatever, you would probably be quiet, if only because you don't want the focus being taken off that glass house and start looking into your glass house.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is when I read this, and not that I side with Jay-Z, but I do know, and you've seen this as well within the Me Too movement and how it first launched, there were lots of people who were having fingers pointed at them, many justly, many unjustly. For all I've ever heard, for all I've ever seen, for all I've ever known about Jay-Z, I cannot recall a single story involving him and the mistreatment of women in terms of sexual assault. I know that Rockefeller Records, back in the day, they would throw the big ballerific parties just like everyone else. Lots of drinking, I would only see maybe weed. Don't know what would happen when I'm not around. I'm actually surprised that he will be caught up in directly being implicated in sexual assault. All I have ever known about Jay-Z is that he is not a good guy in terms of just being just a complete and utter ass, looking down on everyone, being extremely disrespectful to anyone who he felt slighted him in the least. This is just shocking to me that he would be caught up in this. And we saw, when we first saw that this Diddy story came out, when we first reported on it, we said, who's that other person? When they said Diddy and an unnamed major music source, had no idea they were going to come back with Jay-Z. Him with the fire retort and, you know, this is not what we do in for my projects and this, that, and the other. I'm like, okay. But you also claim to have sold goo gobs of drugs to your same community. So right. I don't want to hear about, I'm innocent, I've never done anything in my life. I'm like, yeah,
we know a little.
I don't know, man. I don't know. This is a rough one. I pray that it's not that I'm like in some major support of Jay-Z or anything. I hope that it's not going this far down the ladder. But damn it, all's fair right now. If you were associated with Diddy, this is on you, dog.
Here's my prediction, if you will. In the way that we saw what happened with Bill Cosby, in the way that we saw what happened with Diddy, you have that first allegation, and with Diddy, it had to do with Cassie Ventura. And then the floodgates open. I am more interested to see not happens with this particular lawsuit, but whether it leads to other people alleging other things completely unrelated to this accuser. In other words, do we start going down the rabbit hole with Jay-Z? Because it usually just takes one. History has shown that it takes one, and then it starts to open the floodgates, and then you get to see a bigger picture of someone's history, and it gets to be a little bit more difficult for plausible deniability. And I use the same litmus test. You know, I need all y'all to be lying for me to believe Diddy. Every single person needs to be lying about every single portion of every allegation for Diddy to be innocent or not liable. If the past is prologue and this opens similar floodgates on Jay-Z, then I will have that same stance. You know, I'm not going to be judging him by the one. I will judge him by the 30 if it comes to that. And I look at Diddy through the eyes of the 30, not the one. And given that their glass houses are probably, you know, hypothetically speaking, metaphorically speaking, right next door to each other, there may be some overlap. You know, Would they be at the same parties? Yeah. If one is engaged in felonious behavior, it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. I'm not going to say it's guilt by association. I'm just saying that to your point, Tuala, I don't know if I can say that Jay-Z is a good dude and is above any of this. And there's also something else. He is the entertainment guy for the NFL. If there is any legitimate smoke, the NFL will drop him like a bad habit in a heartbeat because they're not going to let anyone damage the brand. And that, to me, would be the biggest indication of there being some sort of veracity or validity to any allegation. If the NFL somehow cuts bait or disassociates with Jay-Z, that would be the only thing I need to know. Be damned what happens in a courtroom. That says to me, because the NFL is going to do its own due diligence. They're going to have their own investigation that's not privy for all of us to see, but they're going to find out whether there's any smoke and there's any fire connected to these allegations. My prediction is we're not done with the allegations. So if we have to remind you, then we will, but I don't think we're done.
No, far from it.
It's later with Mo Kelly. Your horoscope coming up next. KFI AM 640 live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI Mo Kelly live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And here is your horoscope. We have some tips on how to survive the holiday trauma triggers. I think Tuala pulled this one for me. I just think so. Aries, slow down and ease up. For Aries, you're advised to pull back as opposed to pushing forward at all costs. This is the time to get good at building up your patience and easing up in the pursuit. Being able to take a step back instead of brute forcing your way to a haphazard solution will save you a lot of needless stress, especially during the holiday rush. Taurus, audit and collect this month. For bullfolk, it's time for the chill Taurus to put on their auditor hat and get better at looking into the details of their transactions, whether it's with friends, colleagues, or family. This season is having you squint a little harder at the fine details of your congenial relationships, especially when it comes to time, money, and effort. Gemini, Mark?
I'm ready.
For Gemini, the theme of this season is relationships. All the beauty and the bloodshed and the myriad ways they make and break us. Relationships take center stage for you this season, Gemini, which means a lot of room for melodramas to play out in your closest circles. The best way to navigate the stress of social dramas is to get good at active listening. I know this is a hard ask, but it's necessary when so many misunderstandings happen because of poor listening skills.
Active listening.
All right, remember that, Mark. As opposed to passive listening.
Doing a little Ed McMahon for you there.
Yes. Deep cut. Yes.
Active listening. You are correct, sir.
Really taking the time to hear another person out ensures you will respond with tact rather than react with rage. In other words, no double birds.
What are we talking about? Shacking up with somebody or fighting them in the Roman Colosseum?
Whatever.
What is this?
Whatever.
Love to both.
Okay.
Cancer. Get ready, Stefan. Beware the bah humbug, Cancer. What is typically a season of flannel and merriment could leave you feeling itchy and isolated. Organize your schedule and workflow to build in much needed time for restoration. Now is the hour to power down and tune in so that you can show up wholeheartedly and full force as the year draws to a close. Leo, protect your heart and know yourself, big cat. Leo baby should beware of the lure of the ex, lest errant heartstrings fashion themselves into a noose. Whether you're welcoming your past or cringing at the mere thought of it, this slowdown in your love life could lead to some real headaches and heartbreaks. And just when you thought cuffing season was going so smoothly, take the opportunity to get good at asking yourself the hard questions. How did your ex make you feel when you were with them? And is this something you'd want to get back into? Oftentimes we do romanticize our ex relationships. Virgo, delegate to dominate. For Virgos, delegation and patience will pave the way to serenity, or at least send you down the dirt path that leads away from chaos and self-imposed exile. No one bugs you more than family, and you're about to be flanked on all corners. It's not surprising that you are everyone's go-to when it comes to details, planning festivities, and dispersing information. I know it's a thankless job, but your family wouldn't know where to go if it wasn't for you. Take the opportunity to get better at patience and build out text messages and email templates to help you send blasts to the family group chat and email list. That sounds like something I would do. Libra, do not mince words or scream them this season. As ever, you've done a bang-up job of putting out fires whilst keeping your cool, Libra. But December just might find you reaching your boiling point. Short fuse alert, Libra. You're most likely to get your wires crossed and communication misunderstood, which could lead to stress and anger over this holiday season. So try your best to find the humor in these inevitable communication blunders. If you can't laugh it off because it's too frustrating, simply tell the people around you to go to hell, or how they feel, whatever. Scorpio, here you go, Twala. Scorpios need to tighten their purse strings to avoid the stress of overspending and lean into the art of regifting. Of all the signs, you are most likely to have major buyer's remorse if you purchase anything new or invest in new projects. At this point, you're better off getting good at reviewing your inventory or reviewing contracts in the fine print. That said, here's a loophole. You can totally repurchase anything you already own and give that as a gift to someone else.
Cheap.
Yeah, I don't do that.
That's whack.
Yeah. I don't recommend that.
No.
Sagittarius, here's mine. Caution is advised for the shoot from the hip Sagittarius. Hold off on aesthetic overhauls and declarations of newness until the new year. If you were planning to get a drastic makeover, I'd reconsider. I say this because the trend you're after might not stand the test of time post-retrograde. What you can consider is reevaluating your aesthetic, vibes, and the things that help you self-express in ways that don't require a dramatic change. Translation, go big and bold on personal betterment. But for the love of all, don't cut your bangs. Got it. Don't plan to at all. Do not cut bangs. Got that, Mark? I'm not cutting my bangs.
I like your bangs right where they are.
I was waiting for a William Hung joke in there somewhere, but you know.
Too easy. Too easy.
Okay. Right, yeah. Capricorn. Happy return of the sun to you, Capricorn. As you await the glory of your season, note that it could be rough before it gets right. This month is no walk in the park, since you'll be confronted with past fears, limiting beliefs, bouts of imposter syndrome, and all the nasty little bits that you've tried to hide in that one box in the corner of your mind. Your dreams will quite literally speak to you. As a way for you to process some of these themes, this makes for a great opportunity to go inward and talk about your hidden struggles with a loved one, or even better, a trusted therapist. Aquarius, everyone will want a piece of you, and your social calendar might overwhelm you this month. The best way to handle this is to gather as many people together with aligned values as possible so that you can knock out quality time in groups. Try to see these mix and mingle situations as opportunities rather than obligations, and steer the conversations toward issues that matter rather than trivial pursuits that don't. Yes, you're in charge of merrymaking, and if you don't feel that you're a true or natural host, this is the perfect time to learn and become one. Pisces, Pisces folks should be aware that authority figures, both parental and professional, could be particularly accusatory / instigatory. This month will have you in a workaholic / people pleaser mood, eager to cross off as many things as possible before the holiday rush sweeps the office. With tensions high and holiday cheer threatening productivity, make sure you triple check deadlines and get a paper trail going to ensure you cover your fine ass. That's what it says. When Scrooge starts asking questions, you'll be safe from their scrutinizing wrath. And that is your horoscope as we lead into the Christmas season and, have to deal with these a-hole relatives who keep coming to your house and won't leave, stink up the place, and you try to use your house like it's some vacation spot because you're the only one who happens to live in California, and they're thankless, and they keep coming back every single year.
Wait, are we still talking about the horoscope?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what
This is all theoretical, right?
Yes.
Yeah, well,
in theory.
Yeah. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
We'll help you figure it out. It's kind of what we do.
KFI
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio.